Welcome to One Brooklyn, presented by Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. On this edition of One Brooklyn, Brooklyn Borough President Adams hosts his annual 9/11 Remembrance ceremony in the Borough Hall Rotunda. This year's Remembrance included some family members of some of the Brooklynites we lost. It also included a special banner unveiled outside Brooklyn Borough Hall that included the names of the Brooklyn neighbors we lost. And now the 9/11 Remembrance ceremony at Brooklyn's Borough Hall.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you so much. Let's give her a round of applause. You may be seated. Again, thank you so much for joining us at this morning's Remembrance Day of the Borough President. 3 years ago, when the Borough President was elected, he made a commitment to never forget those in law enforcement and the military that serves us and sacrificed their lives. This morning, we will reveal and unveil 266 names that families that was perished from Brooklyn. You will hear more from the Borough President. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams.
Thank you so much, and I truly want to thank both Abe Freeman and Denise from my office and the entire Borough Hall team that truly understands how important this event is. And I want to thank our families who are here to share their story. And if I can, in my brief moments, I want to borrow from the words from both our rabbi and our pastor. We will not be remembered by the falling of buildings on 9/11. We will be remembered by the rising of a nation on 9/12. That is what is important about the days to come and the years after. I'll never forget that evening, and I'm sure Commissioner O'Neill could recall, when we went to the site and saw the smoldering of the building and saw the collapse of our center of trade. And many of us, for a moment, wanted to find answers to the questions of what would happen in the future. But then 9/12 came, and teachers taught, firefighters put out fires, carpenters did their carpentry, bus drivers drove buses, families went on. The terrorists lost, and we won. We continue to show what makes us great. The entire country was watching to see the response of New Yorkers and how to move forward in spite of the face of fear and danger and a large number of first responders and everyday citizens that were lost. But we continue to move forward and thrive. And from our energy, people realize that America is great not because of any structure or any building. We're great because, borrowing from the famous quote from Snapple, we're made up of the best stuff on earth, and that's American people. And that is what makes us great. And so to borrow from the term that was used several times with the rabbi and the pastor, one. 1998, there was an important experiment that was done. As the pastor and the rabbi talked about the spiritual aspects of oneness, I want to tell you about the scientific aspects that's connected to that philosophy. Geneva, Switzerland, scientists took a piece of matter and divided it into two pieces. They separated those pieces of matter 7 miles apart. And they impacted one piece of the matter, and simultaneously the other piece of matter was impacted in the same way. It sent shockwaves throughout the scientific community because finally there was proof of what our great philosophers and religious and spiritual leaders have stated for years. We are one. It doesn't matter if you went to Africa, Italy, Asia. It doesn't matter if you're from China, Japan, Portuguese, Japanese. It doesn't matter. It matters that we all come from one central source and we're together as one. What impacts you impacts me and impacts all of us. One universal theme, one universal concept, one universal belief. What we are doing today is starting the healing process that will cascade throughout not only the borough of Brooklyn, where 47% of the people are representative of the diversity in speaking language and other than English at home. It represents what we are as a country and who we must always be. This is the land of the free, the home of the brave. Bombs burst in air, but our flag is still there. As long as that flag continues to rise, then hope and aspiration will continue to rise across the entire globe. That's what's great about this country. I'm proud to be a Brooklynite. I'm proud to be American. I'm proud to be a member of the greatest race alive, and that's the human race. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Borough President. Every year, we have a responsibility in Borough Hall to speak to those families that suffered a great loss, either a loved one, a husband, a son. This year, it was a moving experience to visit some families that lost their husband, their son, or their uncle. We have listened to their stories, and we were moved and invited them here to come and speak and reflect on their lives. Those are real people, real lives. I would like to call upon the Vigiano family to come up and speak. When I spoke to Kathleen, I asked her, can you share some photos with us of your husband? And I was deeply touched what an energized and special person he was. We're going to hear more from her. We're also joined by her son, Joe, who is now an active officer in the NYPD 7-5 precinct. And he's actually wearing his father's badge as an officer. And we are greatly honored to have you here. Kathleen, can you join us, please? In about 3 minutes into the program, we will have a moment of silence to reflect the first plane hitting the tower. Thank you.
Am I supposed to speak now? Okay. Thank you, Borough President Adams, for inviting us. Commissioner O'Neill, A. Friedman. This is my son, Joseph, and my other two sons couldn't be here today. Jimmy is serving in the United States Marines, and John, today was his first day of school. Joe always wanted to be a cop, my husband, Joe. And on Election Day, September 11th, I knew, when I heard what had happened, that he would be there. I'm sorry, I've never spoken in front of anybody in my life, so this is a first. I didn't want to call Joe. I knew he'd be busy. I put my kids on the bus and I went to work. Joe died on September 11th doing what he loved. We do know that they got an evacuation order to leave the building, and his supervisor told them to just give us a few more minutes. We were helping someone. Well, they never exited. First few days I was at headquarters, the police department, with other families waiting to hear, waiting for them to come in. But none of our family members came to headquarters. I started calling people. I called everybody I knew looking for him. His cell phone was found, so I thought maybe he was at the hospital. Well, we all know what kind of cop that Joe was. You can see from the photos. He was a great father, husband, brother. Joe and I met in Brooklyn. On the job, we worked together. The saddest part of September 11th is what he missed. He missed Joey and Jim becoming Eagle Scouts. He missed John's whole life. He missed Joe becoming a cop, wearing his shield, changing in the same locker room. He missed both boys becoming Marines, both boys becoming Eagle Scouts, I think I said that. And he missed looking for colleges. That's what we're doing now. Joe accomplished so much in his short life. He was a volunteer fireman and worked on the ambulance in our hometown. Most people only know a fraction of what he accomplished, and that's why I want to thank you, Borough. Now?
Can you please stand and join us with a moment of silence to remember all those who sacrificed their lives? Will be followed by lowering of the flag and then placing of the wreath. We would ask all families to come up with the Borough President, placing of the wreath outside where the names are.
On September 12th, I was on the phone with the Boy Scout leaders telling them that Joe wouldn't be home from work, that he was busy, not knowing that he had already passed. Joe was supposed to take over the Boy Scout troop, and I don't know how many lives have been changed because he had never done that. But like I was saying, most people don't know what Joe accomplished, and that's why I want to thank you, Borough President Adams, for including Joe's name in this banner. And thank you for including Joe's name in this banner where it will shine forever. And I'd just like to say, I'd just like everybody to support our police departments in good times and in bad. Thank you.
Just want to thank everybody for coming here today. It's a really great thing that we're all doing, remembering every year. It helps keep my father's memory alive. Wearing this uniform does that for me. And I just couldn't be more grateful for all of you right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to our next guest speaker to reflect, we'll ask the sister of the late FDNY firefighter William Gormley to please come up and reflect on her brother's life.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not new to the Borough President's office. I've been here since 9/11 with diversity and bringing communities together, along with the imam. And I'm here to reflect back to my brother, and things need to be changed. I have a list here. I'm going to say a few words on my brother's behalf, but this is the list of the gentlemen that have died since 2003 from the fire department, and it's continued. 18 died since 2017. Okay? There needs to be a better system in place for what we just went through. I'll deal with the commissioner later in regards to that. On the day my brother was in the hospital, it was Medal Day. He could barely speak, but he read this, and it brought him back to why he loved the fire department. So I'm going to say a few words. And excuse me if I go all over. I'm not scripted, so I usually don't read by script. I usually do from heart. But I don't want to make Eric angry. So I'm going to go by my brother Billy, firefighter William Gormley of Ladder 174. There's a saying, you say Billy, I say Gormley. Billy Gormley. It's very fresh, and we're still very hurt. Billy grew up on Flatbush and Flatlands Avenue. He attended St. Thomas Aquinas, was our parish. Billy went to PS 119, Huddy, Midwood High School, where he played football with the Midwood Hornets. Even won the city championship one of those years. While in high school, Billy took the fire department test, passed and joined the Marines. Married his high school sweetheart, Liz Ann. He went on to have 4 children, Bridget, Billy, Raymond, and Kevin. There was 5 of us growing up. It was Billy, Maureen, Dorothy, Jimmy, and myself. Our parents were Raymond and Geraldine Gormley. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Billy's love of country, city, and family showed every day. He was a proud Marine, and he served the city with great pride and integrity. He was down at Ground Zero on 9/11 for months to dig out other brothers and sisters, never giving up hope. He was our Audie Murphy and John Wayne, all wrapped up in one. We will continue to raise our families as true American patriots and firefighters, because as Americans, we will never falter or give up. We stay the course, and with our family values and love of country and faith and our fellow Americans, we will always stand when we say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag and our national anthem. We will never run from a fight or fire. We will make Billy proud of us as we are of him. He is our hero. Billy loved to fish. In his final hours, he told us he was going fishing with his brothers from the fire department and our family. We will take it from here. 9/11 has not stopped for us. For 16 years and counting, we must remind the people 9/11 must never be forgotten, ever. Some gave all and still giving. I have to thank the fire department, family transport, and family support. You guys rock. Thank you. To Engine 310 and 174. You guys, your heart are broken too. There are no words. Maybe we can start getting a fire department hospice in place with the help of some of our electeds. I want to thank Borough President Eric Adams for having this event today. We will never forget 9/11. Eric and I have worked together for years with community issues, and we will continue to work together, because I will need your help getting a street named after my brother, Flatbush and Flatlands, to firefighter William Gormley Way. Rabbi Friedman, thank you, for it is never easy to put these events together. The hard work that goes into it goes unsung. Thank you. Police Commissioner O'Neill, you grew up in our area, so we're kind of like paisans now. You also have your loss due to 9/11 deaths, to cancer related to the illnesses that were caught that day. If I'm not mistaken, that number's up to 130. Our family will continue to pray and support the NYPD. Colonel, special place in my heart, Colonel, thank you for sitting on the wall and keeping this nation safe and protected. God bless you. And thank you for your support when my brother was sick. I know Marty Golden's not here, but Marty Golden, he's been through thick and thin with me, and he put up with me, and I respect that a lot. And Fire Commissioner, last but not least, I give you a special page, but don't get mad at me, okay? Since 2003, 150 firefighters have passed due to 9/11 cancers. Add that with 343, the total's almost 500. It's amazing that everyone in here is a suit or a uniform. The public has forgotten. But I'm going to remind them. You can bet that. Okay, 9/11. We still have 4 months till 2018. Our losses are great. They continue to grow. We lost 18 great men my brother being one of those great men of courage and integrity. The courage of these men to face the beast of the fire, running into the fire while others run out. It is amazing. We should never stop training them to be the best in the nation, but around the world as an example. Fire Commissioner, you are the senior guy in the kitchen. Give them the ability to stay number one. Train hard, live up to that title of New York's bravest. Yes, they do run into fires. Respect the senior guy. You are that senior guy. Stop pushing candidates through the academy who don't qualify, and God forbid another event like 9/11 ever happens again. Remember, never forget 343 and 154, and still counting. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. With all due respect, I love all you guys, and I will always stand on the wall with that gentleman there. Thank you. Bridget, would you like to say something?
Thank you so much. And now to our final family member, Irene. It's all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the mother of firefighter Leon Smith, Jr. At a very early age, Leon told me that he was to become a firefighter. Leon was 9 years old. The building I lived in was on Troy and Bergen Street. There was an engine company there. It was Engine 243. Those were Leon's buddies. He considered them more his buddies than his regular buddies. Those were his heroes. And he told me then, I'm going to become a firefighter. I said, Leon, you're only 9 years old. How would you know what the future holds for you? Oh, yes, I am. Leon at an early age, Leon was a giving child. He came home one day from school. Leon didn't have on a coat. What happened to your coat, Leon? Oh, I gave it to my friend. I had 3 coats, so he didn't have one, so I gave it to my friends, and that's just how he took it. He said, was it okay? I said, of course. You always have to share with everyone. Leon went on to Borough Hall Academy. He went to Queens State Prep. Leon got a scholarship from Gannon College playing basketball. The day Leon was supposed to go back to Gannon College, he hurt his back, so he wasn't able to go. So by the time he healed, it was just too late, so he went to Medgar Evers College. He spent a portion of his time at Medgar Evers College. Then he started taking all the civil services tests. Every test out there, Leon took every test. Leon passed every test out there. He worked for traffic. Leon worked for sanitation. Correction called him. He turned that down because he didn't want to be a correction officer. He was on the list for the fire department. The last interview he had was with the state troopers. Leon was going to end up taking the job with the state troopers until the fire department called. After the fire department called, then he declined the state troopers. Leon loved his company. Leon was a chauffeur for ladder 118, and the engine was 205. That was his family. Leon loved them, and they loved Leon. When you saw one firefighter, you always saw another firefighter. They were always together. Anytime there was a marriage or something, Leon was in the midst of everything. Once you met Leon, you would never forget him. Leon left a laughing impression on you. Whenever there was something going on, Leon was in the midst of it. The day of 9/11, I was in my home and someone said, cut on the TV. I cut on the TV and I saw one of the buildings falling. I called the firehouse. They had left already. I said, well, Leon's a chauffeur. He's not going into that building. He has to stay outside and maintain his truck. How can Leon maintain a truck when there's a building that's about to fall down? Anyway, I called the firehouse. There was no one there. That evening, one of his friends, one of his firefighter brothers came to my house and told me that Leon was in the building and that he said, but I have good news and bad news. He says the good news is that he could be in the building, but he could be in the basement of the building.
Speaking to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, he could be into the basement of the building. That's one good thing about it. But I said, Leon shouldn't be in that building because he's a chauffeur. He drives the truck. He's not supposed to be there. Anyway, I went to ladder 118, and I sat with his brothers, because they are his brothers. I sat with his brothers, and they tried to console me. It was eight of them from ladder 118. Eventually, they found 6 of Leon's brothers. They never found Leon, and there was another lieutenant. They never found their remains. As of today, they still hasn't found Leon's remains. But I will never give up to keep Leon's memory alive. On Leon's birthday, which is July 14th, I always have his picture put in the Daily News in the memorial section of the Daily News. On 9/11, I always have Leon's picture in the Daily News. 3 years after 9/11, I had to make sure Leon was never forgotten. I had my block co-named after Leon. But I had to do it again because the first time they co-named the block, they didn't put firefighter. And I want the world to know my son was a firefighter. He gave up his life so that others can live. It took me a year, but I got it done again. After that, I started a scholarship in my son's name. Leon. I didn't have the money, but my daughter-in-law sent money to my church so I can start a scholarship in Leon's name. In October, we will have that scholarship for 13 years. This year, I gave 13 students money for their books and whatever they needed. I'll never let Leon be forgotten. As long as I have breath in my body, everyone will know. Everyone will know that there's a firefighter by the name of Leon W. Smith Jr. somewhere. You will have a picture of Leon somewhere, and I will make sure that my son will never, ever be forgotten. The last time I spoke to my son was the Sunday before 9/11, because on Sundays I used to always make dinners. I would always make family dinners for him, because my husband passed in 1999, so Sunday was the day I would always dedicate it to Leon. If he wasn't working, I always make a big dinner for him. And I asked him that Sunday, I says, Leon, you know, you have 19 and a half years of service, and you have service that you have brought from the other agencies. You can retire. He says, I can't retire, Mama, because Leon had twin daughters, and they were going away to college. He had just taken them in August. They went to Johnson C. Smith, which is in North Carolina. So I says, after the 4 years, I says, are you going to retire? He says, maybe. And that meant he didn't know for sure what he was going to do, but I really doubted because Leon loved his job. That was his every other word, the fire department, the fire department. When Leon would come to my house, I said, okay, tell me what's going on, and we would sit down and he would talk about his company, his brothers, the love that they have for each other. I congratulate the fire department. You are the best of the bravest. You're the best that is out there. I congratulate the police department. You are the best out there. I congratulate all the 343 family members who have lost loved ones. I know how you feel. I'm walking in your shoes. It's been 16 years, and it seems like yesterday. People will come up to you and try to console you with words. There are no words. They can't console you when you have lost a loved one. And Leon was my only child. That made it even worse. You would think, I'm old, Leon is young, he's supposed to bury me. I can't even bury Leon because I don't have no remains to bury him. But that's okay. That's okay. Sooner or later, they're gonna find Leon's remains, and I'm gonna bury my son. Mr. Adams, I thank you so much for having this program just to acknowledge everyone. God bless each and every one of you, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, and you know, we really want to thank you for the scholarship. I think all the families realize if we are fortunate to live long enough, we're going to be unfortunate to experience some form of pain. And your scholarship fund has turned pain into purpose.
Yes, it has.
And that is so important as we do so, as we look at you know, what you are doing with young people and children. And Leon was a personal friend of mine. And, you know, it was really a loss for many of us. And so what we do on behalf of the 2.6 million people in Brooklyn, we want to give you a $5,000 check. This is our way of saying thank you so much, and you know, everyone that knows me, I am a self-admitted mama's boy, and so I know what your son means to you and what you meant to him, and you know, as long as you are alive and we are alive, we're going to continue his energy and his thoughtfulness. Thank God for you and thank God for your family.
Bless you.
Okay, you want to meditate?
Thank you. You may be seated. What a moving program. To continue, we have our keynote this morning, the two commissioners, Commissioner of the NYPD and the Fire Department. Commissioner O'Neill doesn't need any major introduction. Grew up the rank, gained respect by the community and cops alike. Doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night and there's a MOS shooting, he's there. He's there to confront the family, making sure to keep the community at peace and at ease. So I'm deeply honored to call upon the NYPD Commissioner, James O'Neill, to give his remarks.
Good morning, everybody. Eric, there's nothing wrong with being a mama's boy. Nothing at all. Just Eric, thank you, and your staff. Abe, thank you for putting this ceremony together. It's important that we do this each and every year, and we never forget. And to the family members, thank you for having the strength to speak this morning. I know how difficult it is. And to Joe, thank you for carrying on your dad's legacy. Well, Kathy, while you were speaking, they had a series of pictures up there, and I never saw that picture of the guys from Truck 2 before. So that, I was the CO of the 2-5 at the time, and they used to do all our search warrants, so it's a special picture for me to see Joe and Mike and John DeLara, three great cops, and more importantly, wonderful human beings. So again, I want to thank Eric and your entire staff for organizing and hosting what has become an important annual remembrance service, and I want to thank everyone for being here, especially the loved ones of those we tragically lost 16 years ago next Monday. It's hard to believe it's 16 years ago, and those we continue to lose. We're here this morning to fulfill the promise we made to them, the same promise that we make to you again now, that we will never, ever forget. We'll be back again and again to commemorate, to remember, and to honor everyone who died on September 11th, as well as to those who are still dying. The years that have passed don't make that day any easier to deal with, any easier to understand, or any easier to accept. We still feel the pain, we still face the loss, but we move forward together. We move forward by continuing the work of our colleagues, our family members, and of our friends. And everybody wearing blue here today, fire department, police department, thank you for what you do. You make this city great and you keep it safe. And I'm not just referring to police work and firefighting or other types of emergency responses. Nearly 3,000 innocent people died in those buildings and on those planes, and most were civilians. They were like us. They were parents, children, husbands, and wives, working toward building lives for themselves and for their families. Each of them brought unique visions to our world, which was so suddenly and so violently turned upside down and stolen from us. And it's their work that we, those they left behind, must continue, and we will, and we do. We've learned a lot about ourselves on September 11th as individuals, as a city, as a nation. We learned what we're capable of doing, what we're capable of surviving, and what we're capable of overcoming. All the stories of heroism, courage, and sacrifice from that day, and from the weeks, months, and years after have taught us one very important lesson, that our way of life is definitely worth fighting for. So we'll keep fighting for them, for ourselves, and for generations to come. And we'll work hard every day to live up to the examples our heroes have set for us. We'll build on their legacies, and we'll emerge stronger than ever before. Thank you again to all the families, friends, and loved ones for being here with us today. Again, we offer you our deepest condolences, and we recommit our solemn pledge to honor those who served as beacons during our nation's darkest moment, who continue to light the way for us today. And will keep us doing so every day hereafter. Thank you, everybody, and once again, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Commissioner O'Neill. And now to Commissioner Nigro, who, again, doesn't need an introduction. Very well respected, well liked, and not only that, he worked at that tragic day at 9/11. So I'm humbled to introduce to you the FDNY Commissioner, Nigro.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Eric, and everybody here at Borough Hall for once again having us here. You know, this is always one of the most enjoyable times of the year for people. Summer fades and fall begins. It's like today, a beautiful day. It's a beautiful time of year. The school year begins with excitement. Our children are excited, parents are excited. But for those of us in the FDNY, and for our brothers and sisters in the NYPD, each year it's a tough time for us. It's a painful one. It brings us all back 16 years when we were attacked and when we lost far too many incredibly brave and incredibly courageous individuals. Each September, the fire department remembers our 343 members who gave their lives that day. We remember them always for the way they lived and for the heroism they displayed as they rushed to the towers. They went toward danger like we had never seen before, knowing full well that lives would be lost, that some of their lives would be lost. At this time of year, we renew our solemn vow to never forget their sacrifice, to never forget how they responded that day and how they lived their lives. But sadly, these ceremonies have become not only about remembering and honoring those we lost that day, but also about those we continue to lose to illness year after year. September 11th continues to cut a deep wound in the FDNY and, of course, in the NYPD. Later today, our department, at headquarters around the corner here, will hold what has become a painful tradition for our family. As we have done every year since 2011, we will add the names of deceased FDNY members who have lost their lives to World Trade Center-related illnesses acquired due to their selfless work at the rescue and recovery efforts. This year, 32 names will be added to the wall, meaning that in addition to the 343 killed, 159 members of the department have died since September 11th. These tragic facts make this remembrance service all that much more important. We owe all of the heroes of that day a great debt. It is our duty to remember and to honor them for their sacrifice. Thank you again, Borough President Adams, and everyone here today for continuing to keep our members in your thoughts, in your hearts, and your prayers. That's how we all honor that promise to never forget. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now I would like to call the first Deputy Commissioner of the NYPD, Benjamin Tucker, to please say a few words.
Good morning. Eric, thank you very much for putting this service together. I look forward to it every year. Abe, to you and the team for pulling it together, great job. And to our families, thank you for sharing the lives and the stories of your loved ones with us. I think by doing that, when we talk about longevity, when we talk about their legacy, that helps us. You help share with folks who perhaps never met them, but at the same time now I think can have a little bit of sense of who they were as individuals and what their accomplishments were. So thank you for sharing. I know that's really, really difficult. Joe, I know you didn't want to get up and speak, but you did it, and you did it really well. Short and sweet, man. Just like an NYPD cop should do it. It was great. It's often said that time heals all wounds, but that's not always so, as we now know. The catastrophic losses we suffered on 16 years ago changed our lives forever. And we know from the individual stories there are more than 3,000 of those stories as it relates to the NYPD, certainly 23 who we lost on that day, and another 132 and counting since that time. And so it's fitting that we cannot and will not forget, ever. In fact, it's essential that we don't forget the sacrifices of those we have lost and those we continue to lose. And ceremonies and services like this help us honor them and their bravery. And in doing so, we strengthen our resolve to remain vigilant against those who would do us harm, because the threats are still out there. New York City is still a target, and our enemies still a target of our enemies, and I couldn't be more proud to serve with the men and women of the New York City Police Department as we continue to, first of all, honor the legacy of those that we've lost, and in their spirit, continue to keep New York City safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And now I would like to introduce to you the Colonel from the Fort Hamilton Commander, Colonel Peter Sicoli.
Good morning, everyone. Borough President Adams, Commissioner O'Neill, Commissioner Nigro, Deputy Commissioner Tucker, Chief of Department Leonard, and everyone present, especially the families that we are honoring here this morning. Thank you for this invitation and allowing me to be part of this special event and ceremony in honor of our first responders and all who made the ultimate sacrifice on that fateful day. It is indeed an honor to be with you today to represent the United States Army and to represent the Fort Hamilton community as we commemorate one of the darkest days in our nation's history and to recognize the strength and resiliency of our great city and nation. As a soldier and native New Yorker, the attacks of 16 years ago were personal for me, just as it was for all of you today. As a result of those horrific acts on September 11th, our nation has been at war for 16 long years. We stand here today united, remembering friends and families that have been lost, while honoring the countless acts of courage, sacrifice, and bravery that we've all witnessed and continue to do so every day. We remember the heroism of our first responders, the countless civilians who heard the calling and courageously responded, the thousands of survivors who continue to live with their memories of that day, and the family members and friends who still feel the depths of loss. Today we remember the acts of courage for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard teammates who paid the ultimate sacrifice, and we honor those who remain on the front lines in defense of our nation and the freedoms that we all cherish. September 11th is not only a day to grieve, it is a day to feel pride in the strength of this great city and in our country. No act of terror could jeopardize the strength or will of our great nation. Your presence here today clearly demonstrates our continued resolve to both recall our grief and to remember our duty. The price we pay for freedom, while steep, ultimately strengthens the bonds of our nation. Through my 4 deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, the events of September 11th were always on my mind. The memories kept me focused and motivated me to remain vigilant and strong and to remember that my sacrifice is preventing another horrific attack on our homeland. This year I am humbled and grateful to be here with you representing our servicemen and women. Thank you again for this great honor. God bless the men and women in harm's way. God bless our first responders, and God bless our great city. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel, and thank you for your service. I would like to call upon the Chief of Department of the FDNY, James Leonard, to say a few words.
Good morning. I want to thank Eric Adams, Abe, for putting this together, because we won't forget. To Mrs. Smith, to the Vigiano family, who your uncle and your father, you carry a very proud name. You're as much a fire department family as you are a police department family. To the Gormley family, as a son of Flatbush, who was from 174, it is our pledge and our promise that we will never forget. We made that sacred pledge in this department 16 years ago that those names will live on. And I'm here today to reiterate that we will not forget the memories of your families. Every day, Leon, we did not recover Leon, but when you see a rig riding by, and you see those firefighters, when you see these firefighters here, Leon is in their heart, and he's in your heart. And we will not forget Leon Smith, the Vigiano families, or the Gormleys. Thank you. You've paid a tremendous price for freedom. want to welcome, thank you, the Borough President, Commissioner O'Neill, Commissioner Tucker, Colonel Sicoli. Every day, the men and women in our department work closely to protect New Yorkers and to keep our city safe. It's work that's vital to New York City. It's work that's vital to our nation, and we take a great deal of pride in it. We take pride in the uniforms that we wear. That dedication to duty and the unwavering commitment to saving lives, it was never more evident that happened 16 years ago at the World Trade Center. When we were attacked, it was the worst of humanity, but in the words of the Borough President, it was also the best of humanity. We got knocked down, but we stood up. We won. And those heroes who responded that day, those firefighters, those EMTs, those medics, wore the blue uniform of the New York City Fire Department. Those heroes that responded that day wore the uniform of New York City Police Department and other law enforcement agencies. On duty and off duty, they responded that day, not knowing what the future will hold. For the FDNY, we lost 343 extraordinary people, including Joe, your uncle, who was a member of Ladder 132. Chief and fire officer with years and years of experience, and new probies and young firefighters just starting out in their career. Veteran paramedics, firefighters, EMTs, who bravely protected communities throughout this city. Brooklyn was especially hard hit, just like Leon Smith being here in 118, which is right at the base of the Brooklyn Bridge. And so many others who not only lived here and worked here in Brooklyn, who went over into and met their fate that day at the World Trade Center. And now, as the Commissioner just mentioned, we are still losing people all these years later. We just buried Billy Gormley a few months ago after a long, difficult illness. But that's why we're also today honoring on our wall for 9/11 a father and son, Raymond and Robert Alexander, who just died 1 year apart. But that's why today is so important to remember these heroes every single day. Because here in New York City, here in the FDNY, here in the NYPD, we don't forget. This is ongoing for this. This is an everyday event. And we are all proud that we are here to represent that legacy. Those are the people, the giants that we need to follow. The Leon Smiths, the Billy Gormans, the John and Joe Vigianos. They are what people should aspire to be. They are what is great about this country and this city. We will never continue to... We will never, ever forget. As long as there is an FDNY, as long as there is an NYPD, we will never forget the sacrifices of all the ones that we lost. And I'm proud to stand here as the Chief of Department of the FDNY with our brothers and sisters in the NYPD and say, and our members of the military who continue, they picked up that fight and continue that fight to this day, 16 years later. We are eternally grateful. There is no group of people in the FDNY and NYP that appreciate the United States military as much as they do. So, on behalf of the FDNY and with all our brothers, we will never forget. Today, thank you, Borough President Adams, for having this ceremony where we can remember them in the form that they should be doing it. So, God bless America, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Before we conclude, I would like to make a few announcements for some VIPs that joined us. Assemblyman Joanne Simon, is she here? Thank you so much for being here. Retired Judge William Thompson. Thank you so much. We also have here Chief of Community Affairs Joanne Jaffe. We have the Patrol Borough Brooklyn South Commanding Officer Chief Powers. We also have Patrol Borough Brooklyn North Commanding Officer Chief Madry, and all the COs and XOs. If I may ask you, all members of the department and fire department should just stand so we can give you a round of applause. Please rise for the entrance of our color, which will follow by the closing prayers by the chaplain of the fire department, Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, and Imam Kanati. Please come up.
Imam, why didn't you go first? You're dressed much better.
Thank you so much, Borough President, for having us. On behalf of my cousin, Karim Traore, who was a victim also of September 11, and 5 members of my congregation, thank you. Let us pray. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, oh God, you have brought us here in safety to this new day. Guide us with your boundless mercy as we seek to walk in your way of love. Today we pray that your spirit will flow through Brooklyn Borough Hall, a spirit of forgiveness, healing, and hope. Remember all the victims of September 11 and bring the peace, love, and blessings into their families. Please give them a bright hope for the future. Bring a release from the nightmare of September 11. We thank you for our Borough President, Eric Adams, who has heart to heal those with the struggle with the tragedy of September 11. Bless his work so that we all know that we are loved and cared for. Please heal the children of Abraham who are sick in mind, body, and soul. Give us strength to the weak, comfort to the suffering, and hope to the depressed. Bless our leaders as they lead us to be beloved city, a place of security, peace, and tranquility, and love, and provide them with the many blessings. Protect them with your guidance. Grant them wisdom to serve all New Yorkers. Grant to your servant gathered here today the moral courage to keep fighting for justice with love, so that all people are set free. You alone we worship, and you alone we turn to for help. O God of all prophets and messengers, God of Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, may peace be upon them all. In your hand is good. All this we ask for your mercy's sake. Amen.
Thank you. Recently at a festive celebration, 2 young girls aged 10 came running over to me wearing the exact same dresses. They said, "I bet you can't tell us apart. We're twins." I said, "You're right. The truth of the matter is I could tell them apart, because one child was black and the other child was white. They didn't see difference. Those who ran into those buildings on 9/11 were colorblind, were religion blind, were race blind. Shortly after 9/11, when Hanukkah and Christmas coincided, the Hanukkah menorah was 9 feet tall at ground zero. The Christmas tree was 20 feet tall. Christian carpenters on their day off came to build a platform so that the menorah and the tree were exactly the same height. And thus, may we continue to walk to our different houses of worship to celebrate our different faiths, but in the memory of those we honor, those who died on 9/11 and since 9/11, may we stand as equals and see each other as one family. Amen.
Thank you so much. That concludes our program. Please join us outside with the unveiling of the inaugural banner that will list the names of those who were from Brooklyn and died on September 11. And we, just as the fire department, will add any name that will continue to be lost due to the ongoing deaths occurring from the 9/11 related incidents. I thank you all for coming out, and I thank our families. Let's continue to give them the support they need as they continue to move forward. Thank you.